Hello, this is a presentation introducing the exhibition Photo Cameroon Studio Portraiture 1917-1990s. I'm David Zeitlin from the University of Oxford. I have co-curated the exhibition with Erica Jones from the Fowler Museum. I'll start with 3 images, self-portraits of each of the photographers in the exhibition. The 3 photographers, Joseph Chila, Samuel Finlak and Jacques Toussele, all worked as studio photographers in Cameroon in the 1970s through the 1990s. This presentation will introduce the photographers, my research and the enduring relationships that led to the exhibition at the Fowler Museum in 2021. Originally, I never intended to work on photography. I sort of stumbled into the subject, then quickly became fascinated by the photographers, the images, and the stories they can tell. My involvement with these photographers and why ultimately the show has come about is because I do research as a cultural anthropologist in the village of Sommier, which itself never had a photographer. So when I started asking who took photographs for ID cards, I was introduced to Finlak in the village of Atta and to Chila in the small town of Mayodale. Sommier is in between the two. It turned out that neither of them had kept many old negatives, but over the course of working with them, each photographer found about 2,000 negatives to archive. Then Joseph Chila, took me to Buda to meet his patron, Jacques Toussele, who, unlike the other two, had kept most of his old negatives, nearly 50,000 in total. His collection became the basis of the Jacques Toussele Digital Archive hosted at the Cameroon National Archives and the British Library. Sadly, Jacques Toussele died in 2017, but the other two are still with us, and I visit them every time I go to Cameroon, which is most years before COVID. Before I introduce the photographers in more detail, I'll give a brief introduction to Cameroon. Cameroon is located in the region where West Africa meets Central Africa, and it has had a painful and complicated colonial history. Originally a German colony, after the First World War, when Germany's colonies were redistributed to other colonial powers, Cameroon was divided between the French and British empires. At independence in 1960-61, the southern part of British Cameroon voted to rejoin the former French portion. As a result of this, the now independent country is officially bilingual, but the relative status of the two languages is unequal. Most of Cameroon is francophone, speaking French. A relatively small part speaks English, actually often a different version called Kamtok or Pidgin English, and that is spoken in what's called the Anglophone area. Returning to our photographers, this map points out the 3 places where the photographers worked, all 3 of which are situated in francophone areas but near the border with the Anglophone area. So, now to introduce the photographers themselves. The late Jacques Toussele lived and worked in the town of Buda in West Province in the Francophone zone. Joseph Chila, one of his nephews, was originally one of his apprentices. After Chila's apprenticeship was completed, he moved to Mayodale, some 200 kilometres to the north of Buda in Adamawa province, where he set up his own studio. Close to Mayodale is the village of Atta, where Samuel Finlak worked, although he originally came from the Anglophone zone about 50 kilometres away. Unlike the other 2 photographers in this exhibition, he is largely self-taught. As I've said, Mayodale, Buda, Atta are all in the Francophone zone. However, there are big differences between them. Importantly, Mayodale and Atta, which are both in Adamawa province, are in the middle of Cameroon, where north meets south, in terms of both cultural and environmental divides. They are also close to the border with Nigeria. The differences in location have effects in the photographs themselves. Joseph Chila had a painted backdrop that showed the Kaaba, which reflects the predominantly Muslim affiliation of his clientele. The backdrops that Toussele used reflect notions of modernity or an abstract tranquility. Locally produced African cloth was also sometimes used as a backdrop referencing status and wealth. The other presentations in this series will take a deeper dive into some of the themes addressed in the exhibition. They will address family photographs from Jacques Toussele and others, photos of couples, the photographic studios and the props and backdrops they used, and how the photo archives on which the exhibition is based came to be made. Thank you very much.